Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm a assistant professor at Downstate, but I'm also a research scientist at the Nathan Klein Institute for Psychiatric Disease, and I'm the director of the Global Center for AI in Mental Health here at Downstate and Albany. And I want to start by giving an overview of this center, which is very related to the meeting today, and some of the initiatives we're doing there. So the Global Center for AI in Mental Health basically has the goal or the vision to develop and deploy these science-based, innovative AI solutions to address mental health challenges of underserved communities around the world. This is a collaboration, a center that's established between SUNY Downstate with the expertise in mental health and clinicians and populations, as well as some computational neuroscience, for example, in my lab, together with Albany, who have expertise in AI and a lot of resources for supercomputing, and as well as additionally, they also have their psychology and clinician populations and so on. And a third partner, which is this Health Innovation Exchange, who's a sort of spin-off from the United Nations. And they have partners all around the world, and they're helping us connect to different humanitarian organizations and investors and so on. We also have a network of partners, both in big tech, where we partner with Google, IBM, NVIDIA, and others, as well as with many universities around the world that provide expertise, as well as data and other resources, and some humanitarian organizations like Red Cross, International Red Cross, and we're working also to get some partnerships with the UN. So we are focusing right now on 3 specific areas of research. The first one is this generative AI, multimodal, large language foundation models, but focused on mental health. The second one is related, is this idea of digital twins for precision mental health care, which I will talk more about. And the third one, of course, is responsible and ethical and safe use of AI. So we have several initiatives, but I'm gonna focus on one, which is these digital twins. Just to mention that quickly, that on the generative AI front, we are actually working with both IBM and Google to develop some prototypes of these large language models for mental health. I invite everyone who has ideas to contact us, and we can work together. This idea of brain digital twins essentially is, as was mentioned before, is to have a copy of your brain in a computer, a digital copy of your brain that keeps being updated based on data and can make predictions about your health, your mental health. Particularly, the way we approach this is to collect information from all these different sources of data, which can be wearables that are very common today, can be clinical data, health records, can be EEG, fMRI, other types of tests that you can get, and of course, genomics and genetic data. So the idea is to take all this data and build these brain digital twins, where we take a two-way approach. First, using these generative AI models, multimodal foundation models that sort of integrate all these different types of information and can discover patterns, as we have seen in recent years, but combining this with what we call multi-scale mechanistic models of the brain. So these models are very detailed models of how the brain circuits work, and they can also be constrained with specific data, and they can help to make predictions about the probability or chances of different disease and potential treatments. Again, combining this data to develop these digital twins can then provide this concept of precision or personalized mental health care that can help the patient, can help clinicians to diagnose and help with treatments, and it can also help researchers develop new treatments, new ways of early diagnosis, and so on. So I want to now focus on these mechanistic, large-scale biophysical mechanistic models that I mentioned, which is what we developed in my lab. And just to start off, I want to say that we're very lucky because we live in an unprecedented time with massive amounts of experimental data, especially in neuroscience. So this is a electron microscopy from a human brain. This is the cortex of a human brain, and all the locations and information about the different neurons in the cortex, about 50,000 neurons with 130 million synapses. This is one single human cortical neuron with all the 5,000 axons that were projecting from other neurons into this single neuron. So this is just to give an idea of the level of precision and high complexity of the data that we have. And of course, the question is, how can we take all this available experimental data? I've just shown two examples, but we have data at different scales from different modalities. We have recordings at different levels of the brain, from the EEG to single neuron recordings. So how can we take all this information and combine it together and make sense of it to improve our treatments and understanding of disease? So we think one way of doing this is through these biophysical mechanistic circuit computational models. This allowed to really integrate all these different experimental data into a combined computational framework. You can put all the information of different cell types, how they connect to each other. You can simulate different things, and you can generate all these measures across different scales. So I'm going to give some examples of how we do this, in particular with one model that we have developed of the motor cortex circuit, and you're seeing here. This is what we call a cortical column with around 10,000 neurons and 30 million synapses. All the different neuron types are taken from the literature with very exact parameters of their physiology, their morphology, how they interact with each other. The connectivity is again taken from dozens of experimental papers. And so what this allows us to do is to build these very realistic models and have a little piece of the real brain inside a simulated simulation in a computer. Just to give you an idea of the complexity of the model, this is one of the neurons that was simulated, and you can see the real experimental morphology with the simulated one, together with the actual physiological electrical responses of the neuron in the experiment and the model. You can see they are practically identical. And to build this neuron model, it took months on a supercomputer running lots of simulations to get there. And of course, then when we combine these thousands of neurons together into a circuit, we can get these measures that really correspond to what you measure in real patients. And you can get these measures across different scales. Here we're seeing the membrane voltages of each neuron. We're seeing the spiking or action potentials of the whole 10,000 neurons. These measures of local field potentials that you measure inside the brain, and even EEG signals, these large-scale EEG signals recorded from outside of the scalp. All these measures, we then validate them, compare them against real experimental measures to make sure that they are actually reproducing what we see in the brain, and we can then use our computational models to run simulations, predictions, and understand better the brain circuits. So to end, I'm just going to give very quickly mention some of the disease and disorders that we are studying with these models. I'm just going to mention them due to the time constraints. So to start off, we are working, for example, with the Nathan Klein Institute on these schizophrenia biomarkers. So here we're seeing this is in real patients. They lack this response to 40 hertz stimuli. So if you put a sound at 40 hertz and you measure the brain, the patients do not show this response in 40 hertz. So this is a clear biomarker of schizophrenia. So we have reproduced this in the computational model, and now we're trying to understand, since we have access to all the neurons and all the actual details, trying to understand where this comes from. In the broader picture of schizophrenia, we're trying to reproduce several of these biomarkers and then develop specific treatments that could improve, or find new targets for treatments that could improve the schizophrenia condition. We're also working on epilepsy, looking at this idea of channelopathies. This is with UC Davis, and basically making these genetic related variations in different neurons that result in epilepsy, and trying to understand again with our detailed circuits how can this be treated to restore the healthy dynamics. We're working with physicians at Downstate to look at these fast ripples or high frequency oscillations, which are the cause of epilepsy, epileptogenic, and again, trying to understand them with the models. We're working with researchers in Toronto to look at this idea of transcranial alternating current stimulation for stroke rehabilitation. And this is studies in rats, where we're trying to characterize the responses observed in the rats in detail and reproduce them with the simulations. And we're working with physicians here at Harvard Medical School. We're using this transcranial magnetic stimulation for treating Alzheimer's disease symptoms. And they wanted to really understand exactly what's going on when you provide this TMS to the brain. What are the changes in the circuits in the different cell types? So again, we have made a very detailed simulation of this and are trying to develop some more precise TMS protocols. And finally, just to mention this new award that we're very excited about. This is the NIH Director's Transformative Award, 5-year R01, working with guys at Columbia to develop these models, detailed models for aging and stress. And this is combining not only neural circuits, but also astrocytes, which are these other very abundant cell type in the brain. And there's a lot of interactions between the neurons and astrocytes. And so we're trying to model these, constrain our models with genetic data, and generate these EEG biomarkers of aging and stress, and try to understand what's going on in the middle. So just to acknowledge all the funding and, of course, all the people that did the work. And thank you so much.